So we're here with Dom Sagolla. Dom is a co-creator of Twitter and author of 140 Characters. Don, can you share with us what it's like to be a co-creator of Twitter?
Oh, it's like being a mini celebrity, actually. I found that everyone has some connection to it now, and there's always something to talk about. And I kind of know so many people through Twitter that I just have so many stories now. But it wasn't that way at first. There were 14 of us, and we went around evangelizing this right after we launched. And no one could understand it, and no one had any idea what we were talking about. And so now it feels pretty sweet that I can walk into a room and ask if anyone's used Twitter. Most people raise their hand.
And how was 140 Characters born?
So originally we didn't have a limit on the service, and you could write anything, and it would, show up on a series of tweets. Actually, that was before the word tweet was even coined, which is a side story. Jack actually put the limit on the system as lead developer at Odeo at a company called Obvious, just before Twitter was born. And it was in reaction to this problem of having multiple messages being strung along, things coming out of sequence, and there were other bugs. And so they put a limit of 140 because each text message is limited to 160, and they wanted room for the username. And so he, in response to this argument, this uproar that happened after he put the limit down, he wrote, "One can change the world with 140 characters." And I really resonated with that. I really believe that. And that's when I bought 140characters.com and started writing, and just writing blog posts. And one of them got picked up by the New York Times, and it was called "How Twitter Was Born." It's the story that I'm telling you now, essentially. And the article got me an agent and a publisher, which produced the book this summer, and it's just been on sale since October. It's called 140 Characters, a style guide for the short form.
Is it the new elements of style?
I have that book, and I sat with it while I was writing mine to make sure I didn't repeat anything in there. But also, I wanted to mimic the structure that they had of the 5 sections, where every section has a sentence at the head, at the beginning, that you can just read and skim and get something out of as you read just the table of contents. And so that's what I did with my book. And so it's meant to be a complement to that, and not a replacement, just a sort of an update to that alongside it.
And so Jack describes it as a guideline or a protocol to short form communication. Would you say that that's pretty accurate?
Yes. Yeah. Well, yes, Jack's an engineer at heart, so the word protocol is perfect.
And in terms of the physical book, that's really only the beginning, as you describe it. It really, because there's something equally as exciting, if not more exciting, called the book app.
Right.
Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
So what I did originally was I set out to create an iPhone app and a PDF, and then I got this agent and I got the publisher, and they produced a beautiful text edition, but it's one moment in time. And you work really hard, but inevitably there are flaws, and so you're lucky if you get to make a second edition. So in my world, I can make another edition anytime I like. I can ship an update to the text independently of an update to the application itself. So I've submitted the app to Apple. It's been approved. It's on the store right now. Search 140 in iTunes. And if I have an adventure, or if I go to Amsterdam, for example, like I just did last week, and have some stories and some people that I've referenced, I can put that and link that inside my book overnight. And the person who reads it, as they're reading it, the new version gets downloaded. The next time they load the app, the new version is presented.
So it really is a book redefined.
Yeah, it's a book that I can update anytime I want. I can fix, correct, bring up to the times, add features, essentially just evolve the whole idea, the kernel of it, as events warrant. And that's, I think, what's important about Twitter itself, is that it's always changing and evolving. And to match that, I felt like I had to do this, just to match the irony of writing a book about 140 characters.
And can you tell us about a couple of the features, such as the in-app browser?
Right, so one thing I noticed, I did a survey of different book frameworks on iTunes, and what I saw lacking was a sense of continuity when you're looking at a link. A lot of them do hyperlink certain things, words, URLs, but either it's just zipping around inside the text, or it pops you off out in Safari, and I felt that was disruptive. And so, worked on an application called Obama '08 last year with a bunch of volunteers for the Obama campaign. And one thing we did was to include an in-app browser. So anytime you hit a link, you're staying inside the app to see the content. And there's a small bit of Chrome that pop up, and it goes away when it's not necessary. And that simple innovation seemed to be very useful, so I copied that from mine, and added a few other sparks, like the ability to bookmark exactly where you are on the text, and the ability to read other people from Twitter within the app without actually logging into Twitter. The 140, as I call them, the people that I would follow if I had to start over from today. The people I recommend that you follow if you're just starting out. You can preview them inside the app, and that's another innovation. And the rest is basically I've tried to separate the reading experience from the multimedia experience, and so you can see the power of just hypertext alongside the other content, video, and photos from my book tour, etc.
So multimedia enabled, which is also pretty
but
unique.
also contained, so that it's not disruptive. You get your reading experience, which is optimized for the reading. You start side of your brain, and then there's the multimedia experience, which is optimized for that, where you just see it all in sequence. And I felt that was necessary because I hadn't seen it elsewhere.
Who gets it when it comes to Twitter as a brand, and who gets it when it comes to Twitter as a celebrity?
Well, the person who wrote my foreword, the inventor Jack Dorsey, I think is a fine example. And he sort of lives his message. That's an important that's a major fundamental part of the book, which is lead by example. So folks who are leading interesting lives and writing about them. I think actually someone like Ellen DeGeneres is a fine example, because I always knew she'd be great at it because she's got that quick wit, and she knows the one-liner. You can tell,
right.
And that's a huge format on Twitter, short form, is the one-liner. There are great leaders. Barack Obama is a fine example as well. He was the most followed user on Twitter when he was elected. And then there are breaking news stories. A fine example is CNN BRK. They got the headline for that. They nailed it. The Onion, their sort of counterpart, right? They're so good at being fake that sometimes people think it's real. Because the irony is so deep or whatever. I don't know. They've got the ironic format. But there are other great examples, and there are 140 of them listed in the book or in the app. And I'm compiling them on Twitter as a list at dom/the-140. dom/the140. That's a continuous list I'll always be updating. Those are the people I would consider you should follow if you're starting from scratch.